What's good, y'all? It's your boy Roy, and I'm back with another episode of Would You Watch It Again, the show where we review your favorite movies, anime, and TV shows, and at the end of the day, we answer the question that really matters. Would you watch it again? Today, I got my boy Dooley with me, and we're going to be reviewing Welcome to the Chippendales. So, Abdul, what do you think of the story?
Well, I mean, I think the story was pretty interesting for a newcomer like me that wasn't familiar with the Chippendale story. I think it was really interesting, especially because it's based on a real story. It follows your boy Steve Banarjee, played by Kumal Nanjiani, who builds the greatest male stripping empire ever. And beyond that, I know that you kept recommending the show to me because it gave you a lot of inspiration. But other than that, what I did find interesting about it was how many like different, I guess, murder for hire plots there were going on in the background. I thought it was pretty well done as far as like the performance and as far as like the narrative and everything that was going on. There was a lot of things I didn't expect to happen, especially just from the first episode up. I think it kept a good momentum like from the first episode up. But yeah, it was pretty good, I'd say. But what did you think?
Oh yeah, definition of pretty good. Like, I'm staring at the ratings right now, and that shit's like at 3.5 stars, 3.7. That's pretty much what it deserves, out of 5, of course. Because in general, like off back, the story was the pacing was a little off. I'm assuming that's because they want to get right into, the Chippendale story, because obviously that's really what we're here for. I know that the Paul Snider, murder-suicide with him and the Playmate was like a big deal, and like Paul Snider was kind of like the first guy that Steve Banarjee kind of worked with that kind of like helped him come up with the idea. Regardless, I don't like how that murder was put in this place where it's like, yo, this is connected to the larger, like some sort of like, oh, who done it or something like that. Instead, it's not just a murder suicide, but it's a murder suicide. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, kind of like, I think it was good that it put it in the first episode, but I do wish they developed it a little more in a sense, because it's like it kind of set the tone of the show. Because you watch the first episode and you're thinking this is going to be like some money hungry empire thing, and then he gets caught for doing some corrupt stuff, but then it ends up being like, oh shit, like this guy allegedly he raped and killed his like ex-wife. And like even that story, when I was like looking more into it, she was with like one of the people like she was working with in Hollywood or something. Like she started dating him, and they warned her to not go back and meet up with him, and then boom, like ends up like killing her and assaulting her and then killing himself. Obviously it's very dark, but it's like one of the things that kind of set a decent tone. But I will say from that first episode, I was like, oh, I'm locked in.
Oh yeah, I'm locked in. But then, like you said, there's a tone set, so I'm thinking this is going to be a dark story. It wasn't really. The dark elements were more so pushed towards the latter half, because or not even latter half, the latter, last couple episodes. But more so, it's about like a struggle between like artists and businessmen, and like jealousy, and like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that was really what the entire story is about. And then, of course, once Steve gets enough of it, what I'm saying, he decides to take the man out. Insane. Yeah, they definitely test on it. I thought it was interesting. I mean, you have a tug of war between Nick DeNoia and Steve Banarjee the whole time, and then he's just they have this actual, when you really think about all of this stuff happening in real life, they have a business dealing on a napkin, where he gives the napkin is fine. The napkin is completely fine. It's all of that shit was Steve. And that's just Steve's pride and ego. His pride and ego allowed him to be successful as a businessman, but it's the same thing that led him into these just terrible ideas. Like, yeah, the idea of a Chippendales touring company sounds great, but like I said, it sounds like some Rory Amal Joe Budden shit, because everything on that piece of paper is pretty much fine except for the perpetuity part. And the fact that you're not checking, there's no way to check the expenses. There's no way for me to know exactly what my profit is.
What's going in.
So there, 50%, if I could give 50% and everything is detailed, then it's fine. But instead it's 50%. But I have no idea of, finding out whether or not this is actually 50% of the money that I'm supposed to be receiving.
Yeah, but and it's crazy though, because if you're really not working, if you ask most people if they could sit back and collect 90K a week or 90K a month, and that's just like, okay, that's a month, so you're easily raking in $1 million a year, and $1 million a year at what 80s or something is insane, even though that's insane now. And even like if you look at his discipline prior to all of this starting, he said he saved like 40K, you know, over his time of like working at a gas station. And that's like from working minimum wage. Most people nowadays make more than double than 40K a year and aren't able to save like 5K. So I'm saying like it's impressive what he was able to build, but it's like his greed and his stubbornness around like just wanting power. Like you already have everything given to you. You're already a set millionaire. You don't even have to work really. And it's just your envy of this other person to get credit when really, you know, yourself, this wouldn't be Chippendales without him. And I thought that was kind of like a hard pill for me to swallow, even as I'm watching, because I'm, you know, you're rooting for Steve, but it's kind of like, you know, Nick is 1,000% right. Like, I thought they did that good though.
And I'll give you another little thing from the actual Chippendales, the Hulu doc, before we move on. But
I watched it too. Yeah.
Oh, you watched part of that?
Yeah,
so
yeah,
the fact that it was so weird watching them shit on Nick DeNoia so much. Like they shat on Nick DeNoia. They did not really show that part of his personality. We knew he was an egomaniac, but like in the sense of he's like a great artist, but not like in the sense of like he's controlling every single aspect of the show, you know. And he's one guy is saying he was worse than my drill sergeant in the military. Just that's fucking crazy. But
yeah. They said he would pinch like your little hip fat or something. You just come
I
around.
Believe
and,
that.
like, work
I mean,
on
it's a vain. The job is vain in itself, bro. Like yes.
Yeah.
Make sure you do not have, you know what I'm saying.
It was dope though. He had a vision for the show. Like he had a vision for the talent in itself, and he was really like going at lengths end to make sure it's executed. And you see that with like those creative geniuses, like they can be almost detrimental to everyone, including themselves and people around them, where they're just like, yo, this is what needs to get done, and I don't care if this offends you. Like, nah, like work on your little fat right here, get that shit out of here. Like I just thought that was, I wish they did that a little bit more in this 8-episode show, you know, especially like as you know, like if you watch the documentary, if you like read any articles or watched any other, like they made a movie about this apparently, I didn't even know about, but I was watching that and I'm like, there's so much content even in this that they just left out of the show, which kind of, yeah, I guess they
really
is.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe that's part of the problem, but let's go ahead. No, literally, I think that's part of the problem. But let's go on to the characters. Did you have any favorite characters? Anybody that stuck out? I mean, obviously, you mentioned, you know, Steve Banarjee.
Yeah,
so many.
Yeah, Steve Banarjee. I'm always happy to see Kumal. I feel like he always plays this like frustrated character really well in everything he's in, like where he's just like, oh, this shouldn't be happening to me type of thing. So like that was always nice to see, you know, if you've seen him in any other movies. The guy who played Nick, he was very smug, very arrogant. And I guess from the documentary, seeing him in real life, it didn't really look like he was that guy. It looked like he was just more militant about everything. Other than that, I kind of have a complaint about like something I felt like were just underdeveloped or underused. Like I don't remember the guy's name, but the black guy that was in the original Otis. So like it just felt like he kind of didn't really get a chance to shine. Like they were giving him screen time, but they weren't really giving him a reason. It was kind of like, yeah, let's kind of go with this racial plot, but it kind of didn't. It just didn't get anywhere. I guess.
No,
it's
like, actually annoying as fuck. Because now you say that, it's really annoying. Because like you watch all the shit, right? So you know they pulled pieces of the real story to create this, you know, actual Welcome to Chippendales. So there was no mention of Otis. I didn't see Otis in there, but it doesn't make sense for me. Like he was literally used as a device for Steve Banarjee's character, like like a plot in the story for Steve Banarjee's character, just to show us that Steve is willing to do whatever it takes to make money. Which at the end of the day, I'm like, I completely understood what he's doing. I was like, go ahead, do what you gotta do, make that money. The only problem is when you start to do the VIP cards and you start to, you know, still racial discrimination using VIP cards, which is insane. Like you can't do it that way, man. You could do it the Otis ways, but you can't like literally tell black people you can't come into the club, like, or
have a limit of black people or something in the club. That's what I think they were saying that in the documentary, like where he would, I guess he would only let a certain amount in after a certain hour or something, and then it was kind of crazy that he was that hyper fixated on having that much control, because to him, like, white people were the ones that were spending the money. And I don't want to go there, but it is kind of like a real crazy thing to be like, this is what you want. Don't you just want people to know your stuff and like having fun at the end of the day? And it's like, how much money is really enough to you? Where like, are you worried about business revenue at every single day? I don't know.
No, I mean, they kind of stressed that point, but they made it like, you know, cutesy, made it fun. You know, Steve and his wife Irene running around, you know, switching the top shelf alcohol around and stuff like that, like, you know, starting to scam people and stuff inside of their business. Like, he was always that kind of person. I had respect for him doing that stuff. He just kept taking it to, you know, higher and higher levels. But I don't know, Nick, I might have to say Nick might have been my favorite now I think about it, because he's just a pure artist, man, and it's just kind of dope just to see somebody in that element. Just like, all he cares about is the art, and as how good it is. The fact that he didn't want to watch Hunkenstein the first night, he's just sitting in the back room with his headphones on, like, just waits for the applause. Like, oh yeah, all that shit, I completely get all that. I also know why people were out to kill you. I also completely understand that too. You can't be ripping people. You can't be ripping people. The thing is, like,
well, you really think he was ripping people off then? Because I didn't. Get to that.
No, I'm saying like the deal, the Chippendales like touring company deal. Like, if that was the actual deal, I'm not saying it's right for somebody to kill you, but for someone, people kill people for far less than millions of dollars. Like, and this is just like in the first couple of years of the touring company even existing. Like, let's just say from a decade from now, like, how much money Nick could have easily scammed Steve out of in the future. Like,
I guess so. Like, I guess they didn't really, to me, they didn't paint Nick as the scammer. Like the way you were saying earlier, how Steve was like cutting people off the top for like liquor. I didn't see that in Nick as much. I just definitely seen him as kind of like, yo, I kind of want to be the face of the company. I kind of want the attention around it. But I guess I didn't get that. And even from the documentary, I didn't really get that he might have been the guy to kind of cheat you out of money, I guess you could say. But, you know, for all we know, who knows? It looked like a lot of the work was done on paper, and they literally did business on a napkin. So can't put it past them at the same time either. I just am curious how, if you had a deal, like I remember seeing, like, I think in the movie that apparently Nick tried to sue Steve because he tried to go ahead and take the thing on tour as well. So it's like,
which is weird how he won that. I don't know sure how he won that, but I guess it's like, if you literally specifically on that napkin just said all Chippendales touring rights belong to Nick DeNoia from now in perpetuity, but instead it said like the company, because they created a whole new company for the touring rights based off of that piece of paper. And I'm like, well then shit, Steve can do whatever he wants then. He just has to make a new company. Like,
yeah, I didn't understand that, but it was, I don't know, I didn't understand that. I didn't understand his point of jealousy there, you could say, because like I said earlier, if you're collecting that much money from someone else doing all the actual work, like envisioning it, you're literally kicking back and collecting the check. How much more jealous can you have? And now I also like saw that, I don't know if the documentary stressed it as much, but like the show kind of made it look like he wasn't the best businessman, or he really wasn't anything. Like, even around the first person that helped him incept the idea of Chippendales, and then like having a male strip club, and then the outfits he didn't consider, the show and performative aspect he didn't consider. He was more so just trying to eliminate anything that could compete with him. Like, you know, let's try to burn down this competing club that's also having male strip clubs. Like, it looked like he was more so looking at it in a business mind of like, don't affect my money, but not really strategizing how to grow his money, if that made sense. Like, we saw the calendar deal. Now, apparently that put him in a big hole, I can't imagine. So that was even more of a reason for me to be like, why are you tripping about a free check coming every month? I don't know.
Hey, that's Steve character. You know what's funny is like, we're talking about the characters, but it really was just Steve Banarjee and Nick DeNoia. It's literally just, it's all about them.
I mean, did you like Ray? His ass kissing ass, the guy who's like,
oh, I fuck with him. I fuck with Ray heavy till the end. I fuck with him heavy. The fact that he was like, because I mean, if you're gonna snuggle up to anybody, snuggle up to the dude that's probably gonna be about to be a millionaire, because Steve Banarjee was about to be out of here if he didn't. Yeah. And he even, after like killing Nick DeNoia, he talks about how like, yeah, I killed him, but that was 6 years ago, and now we're all over the world and we're even more successful. And it's like, I guess you could have done this by yourself.
Yeah, he didn't think twice about it. Anything he asked him to do, he just handled it or whatever. But I don't know, he just looked like the little ass kisser. The way he was like, he like got on his knee and kissed his hand. I'm like, all right, man, like have some respect for yourself, Jesus. Like, what is he doing?
He's up here. He knew what he wanted. Hey, he was trying to set up generational wealth.
I did want to ask, like, your main complaints I feel like are probably similar to mine, where I think they just try to rush too much of, like, they try to condense too much into 8 episodes. So like with me, I would say the second half of the show, like essentially you have the first 4 or 5 episodes like teasing the tension between Nick and Steve. Then the third, like the last 3 episodes, is kind of like, all right, Nick dies, and then it's just pretty much flipping it into, all right, now Steve gets caught. It's like, oh yeah, no shit. I mean, why would they be putting out this show or whatever? Like, we know something's gonna happen. Either he dies, gets caught, whatever it might be. My problem was those last 3 episodes, I feel like should have been stretched more, or it could have even been another season, or just could have been more episodes. Like, I don't know. Like, I understand the reasoning of trying to make like a 1-season show so you can try to tell like a story the best way, but it's like, if you watch the doc and you did anything else, if you actually like listen to everything else, even if you just watch the show and then you go back and watch it, you're gonna kind of feel like this wasn't enough. So then when you go back and watch like the doc or anything else, you're like, wow, there's a real deep sting operation where this guy is trying to take like a syringe cyanide, like a cyanide of syringe to like kill Adonis, like some ex-dancers that Steve had, and you know, this person flips on Ray and then Ray has to flip on Steve. It's like you had a overtime big plot and like more arson attempts from Steve, and it's like you skipped over all of that just to jump to the next episode to say Steve got caught. It was kind of like a real, did anyone even know why, like what happened in that last episode? Like, did you know prior to watching it?
No,
like what happened with Ray? How did Ray flip? Like anything like that? Like,
oh no, they showed what it was in the show. I mean, it's hard to believe it. They essentially caught the hired gun, and they asked him to flip for something else, and then he gave him that, which was insane. Because I'm like, if that's the story, then that's literally why people killed a hired gun afterwards. You know what I'm saying? Like, but. Yeah.
They said he brought cyanide like overseas because they were in England or something, and you couldn't obviously bring a gun overseas, and then he just backed out of it and then went to the FBI or whatever to report on it, and then boom, like it was done. And then from there they flipped to Ray, and then Ray flips, and then even that flip was like a long period of them building trust again to try to talk about their old crimes. And then it's like when you really listen, it's like, how was like the original story to this even more interesting? Like the retelling of events more interesting than what they put on the show. The show, you're trying to see them stretch it out and try to see like deeper, intricate parts you probably didn't pay attention, maybe even embellish a little bit, but you didn't get that. It was kind of like, dang, that's it? Like just the next episode after Nick dies, it's Steve's caught? Like, nah, I gotta know. I guess that was my main thing. Like trying to condense that story into what you got was, I don't know, it was kind of a letdown, I'd say. So.
No, that's a big letdown. See, I didn't actually finish the documentary, the Hulu documentary, but that little cyanide piece in the beginning of the first Hulu doc episode, I was like, oh wait, hold up, cyanide. I didn't hear nothing about that. Yeah, they definitely missed the ball with that. Like, that's kind of the funny part about this. It's like you might be close to giving this like a 4 out of 5 stars after you finish this. Like I said, you're probably gonna go like 3.5, but then you learn more about what happened.
Yeah,
it goes lower, man. Like
yeah,
I'm just like, you guys really, you know what they did a great job at though? The Chippendales dancers and their choreography and shit. Y'all killed that. I can't.
I like how we didn't talk about that at all.
We didn't talk about that at all. And that was a huge part of the show. Because mind you, this man over here, Abdul, told me, oh, there's barely any dancing.
Sorry,
There's
I mean,
dancing every, like,
bodies was nice.
The bodies were insane. I'm just like, damn, bro, I gotta get in the gym. Like,
yeah.
But it's crazy because like the dancers actually like showed you like where Chippendales were going. Like you saw like their little just bullshit, just had any sort of dude up there with their shirt off, to like it got better and better and better to like you finally got to Hunkenstein in the Chippendales, New York, and it's just took it to a whole full fucking show. So yeah,
I didn't know about those little like outfits. I might sound stupid, but like those like outfits you can just rip off your body.
You didn't hear about that? Yeah,
I didn't know that. I didn't know that until I watched the show. I'm like, oh wow, that's a pretty cool like patent thing right there to just kind of think
That's
of.
not
Like,
just a cool patent. That's a money making patent. I don't know who had that, but that tearaway pants are in the NBA. You know what I mean? Like, it's.
I didn't know that was. Is that from Chippendales? Is that from before that?
know.
Like, I didn't know about that. So I guess it was.
Maybe there was like a bunch of people in the 80s that made them, because they instantly had like 2 different names for them as soon as she created it. It's weird.
I don't know. I was surprised by that. I guess they didn't. I mean, obviously the whole show was centered around like who's getting the shine, and then how you kind of saw like even Nick's ghost tells Steve that in the prison, where he's like, bro, you won. You know, the battle was over, the war was over, and it wasn't enough for you. Like, you still had to go and compete, quote unquote, against people that already like that you fired or whatever, or that abandoned your ship. Like, you're not losing money per se, but you just don't even want to acknowledge any competition, which is really crazy. I will say also, like, the show, you kind of know what the protagonist did was bad, but they kind of set it up as like everyone around him is mainly evil. Like, you don't really get that until you watch like the documentary or like do any other research around the series, you know. Like, the show almost props him up as like a guy that's taken advantage of, but really he's this guy that's been ordering hits on people and burning next door clubs, and he's a racist, and it's like, is he really good, or are we just being lied to? So,
yeah, they could have definitely done a better job at that point. But all right, Abdul, it's time for the big final question. Would you watch Welcome to the Chippendales again? I would say season 1, but come on now, we're not getting this season.
Unfortunately, I wouldn't watch Chippendales again. I would say if I wasn't familiar with the story, this is definitely a good entryway to get familiarized with all the characters and everything that happened in the background. Someone like me. But if you do get familiarized with everything that happened outside of the story, then you're going to be looking at this show as like, wow, it really wasn't that good. I think I'd give it a 6 out of 10. So,
yeah, same here. I'm not watching this again. I'm not going to say I wasted my time. Like I said, dancing was great. I mean, that's not what I was really there for. I was really there for the murder mystery, but barely got any murder mystery. So all in all, I like to see, I'll take the brown man making a come up. You know,
now.
I'll take that story, even though it has a pretty sad end. All right. Killing people, making hits, burning clubs, terrible. You know, terrible thing to do.
Great TV, though.
But great TV. But offing yourself so your family can reap the, you know, not lose everything to a Rico. Good job, man.
Oh yeah, one last noble act. Shout out to the boy, man. But yeah,
yeah. But, that's all we got for you today. Yeah. Please like and subscribe, and please don't watch this again.
Peace.
Peace.